Although internet dating is common today, it wasn't always. In fact, there was a time when many people thought internet dating was foolish or even dangerous. After all, you never know who's on the other side of the screen or what they have planned. In 2008, one man in Canada, Mark Twitchell, proved that the danger was all too real. Using various female accounts, Mark lured two men to a garage he rented with murderous intention. And although one of the men escaped, the other wasn't so lucky. Had he not been caught, Mark would have almost certainly become Canada's latest serial killer. Today's episode of True Crimes Around the World goes into detail about Mark, his crimes, his trial, and more. Mark Twitchell was born in 1979 in Edmonton, Canada, the capital city of the province of Alberta. On the surface, he seemed to be doing well in life. At 29 years old, he was a second-time husband and a father of a very recently born child, and he had big ambitions. Having graduated from the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology with a bachelor's degree in radio and television arts in 2000, Mark's biggest goal was to be a movie director. A Star Wars fan film he directed was due out that year, and it generated a good bit of hype, even getting one of the original actors involved, and he claimed he was in talks with media companies about a directing position. However, as will be seen soon, much of Mark's apparent life was a lie, and only when you dig deeper does his evil interior start to show. Though he was married, Mark's marriage wasn't a happy one. By the time he was arrested in October 2008, he and his wife hardly slept in the same room. At the root of their strained relationship were Mark's infidelity and lies. He cheated on his wife with his ex-girlfriend and tried to cover it up unsuccessfully. He also lied to her about having a job. In reality, he was living off the money his friends invested into his films, leaving during the day to do who knows what instead of working. Mark had, in his own words, dark obsessions, including an obsession with the popular TV series Dexter. The show is about a serial killer who kills evil people, something Mark would fantasize about doing in his diary. He even wrote about how he wanted to kill his ex-boss, saying that he would be doing the earth a favor by getting rid of him. Mark's obsession with Dexter was strong, so strong in fact that he ran a Facebook page where he pretended to be Dexter, writing strange posts from the fictional killer's perspective. He would even post on his personal page comparing himself to Dexter and remarking how similar they are. One woman, a fan of said page, would end up befriending Mark, first there and then on his main account. The two talked at length about their frustrations, and Renee even mentioned how much she wanted her ex-husband's new wife dead. When she expressed doubts about how she would even do such a thing, Mark told her to cut her body up and put it in a trash bag like Dexter would. As dark as their chats got, even Renee was in for a surprise when sometime later Mark sent her a message saying he crossed that line and that he liked it. Crossing that line, of course, refers to his first and only murder. Before this murder, though, he made one unsuccessful attempt. Using the dating website plentyoffish.com, Mark set up a number of fake profiles and pretended to be a woman in order to lure in men. Though he originally wanted to go after cheaters, he settled on single men as his targets, thinking their disappearances would draw less attention. He preferred his victims to be middle-aged and not too physically imposing. Somewhere between 5'7" and 5'11", and between 150 to 180 pounds was his ideal. He created several accounts, each using his own fake emails, and on one account named Sheena, he matched with a man named Gilles Tetrault. The two hit it off quickly, and soon enough, a movie date was planned. Sheena then gave Gilles directions to a garage to pick her up at, although in reality, the garage was Twitchell's playpen. Here, you can see a copy of the directions given to Tetrault. As you can see, Twitchell made sure not to put an address. The garage itself was very Dexter-esque. Twitchell had taken the address plank off the back and boarded up the windows so no one could see inside. The neighbors, he said, were immigrants who didn't speak English, which gave him a sense of security. Inside, he set up a kill room with a custom-built table and chair and a table that had been left there by the realty company. He bought plastic to cover the table and screwed a green blanket into the wall to hide it from being seen by whoever came into the garage. He had an array of weapons, including a stun baton, a blade to kill with, and a kit used to cut up hunted animals. On October 3, 2008, the room was done and the trap was set. Gilles arrived to the garage, unaware of the danger that lied in wait inside. Theatric as ever, Twitchell stood behind the green curtain and waited for Gilles to walk through the door. As Gilles approached, Mark's only thought was that he would need to keep paper towels handy for future cleanups. Sometime after 7 p.m., Gilles entered through the cracked garage door just as the directions described. Once he entered, however, his date was nowhere to be found. Instead, he was attacked from behind by a mysterious assailant. Looking back, Gilles saw his attacker. He was 6 feet tall and wearing a striped gold and black hockey mask. Mark quickly pulled a gun on Gilles, aiming it at him and telling him to get on the ground. He then covered his eyes with tape and began searching for something else, likely another weapon. Hearing the noise, Gilles decided he would rather go out fighting than on the ground and stood up to face his attacker, ripping the tape from his eyes. When he did, Mark again threatened him with the gun, but it didn't work. Gills reached for the gun and felt that it was plastic, a fake. Emboldened, he punched Mark in the face, but he could feel his punch was weak and affected the stun baton that had been used before. After the weak punch, Twitchell began punching Gills in the side of his head, and it was clear to Gills that he wouldn't win the fight. Luckily, Twitchell grabbed Gills by his jacket, and that was all he needed to break free. He slipped out of the jacket and rolled out the garage door, running for his life. Horrifyingly, his legs gave out, and soon enough, Mark was dragging him back inside. At this point, Tetrot thought it was all over. Thankfully, once Twitchell threw him back inside the garage, he was able to roll out again. This time, he managed to get in his truck and speed away, safe from the danger behind him. Embarrassed, Gills went home and decided not to tell the police what happened, thinking it was just a random mugging. When he went to Plenty of Fish to see Sheena's profile, it was gone, deleted by Twitchell. Although Twitchell's diary says he threatened him before he deleted, saying he knew where Gills lived. And just like that, Twitchell's first murder attempt ended in failure. It's not hard to create another account though, and even though he failed as Sheena, Twitchell would be back just a week later with a new profile, and this time, the results were deadly. Exactly 1 week after Gil's encounter with Mark, another victim arrived to his lair. His name was Johnny Altinger, and at 38 years old, he was a single father of 2 living in his hometown of Edmonton, Canada. He loved motorcycles and was no stranger to online dating. In fact, just 2 years before his death, he met a woman from Plenty of Fish, and the two became friends, although they didn't end up dating. So when Altinger met Jen in late 2008, it was nothing out of the ordinary for him. Unfortunately, the same can't be said of what followed. On the night of October 10th, 2008, at around 9 p.m., Johnny Altinger was attacked upon entering Mark Twitchell's garage. Learning from Gil's escape, Twitchell didn't use a stun baton this time. Instead, he opted for a lead pipe, hitting the unsuspecting Altinger over the head with it repeatedly. He then stabbed him to death and cut his body into pieces. Early the next day, he went into Altinger's apartment and sent an email to his friends and family in an attempt to keep them from becoming suspicious about his disappearance. He also robbed the place for some money and a signature that happened to be in Altinger's printer. The email said that Altinger was going away to Costa Rica for a month with Jen, whom he had recently met. Before leaving, Twitchell deleted Altinger's Plenty of Fish profile. Once he arrived back at the garage, he tried unsuccessfully to burn Altinger's body in a barrel, deciding to cut it into even smaller pieces and dump them, just like he told Renee to do, just like Dexter would do. After driving around for a while looking for a suitable spot, Twitchell dumped Altinger's remains into a sewer manhole, thinking that was the end of the story. Little did he know, the story of Altinger's murder was only beginning. Altinger's friends and family didn't believe the email they received for a second. His brother Gary caught the email completely out of character and was shocked at the idea that his brother, whom he considered responsible, would suddenly not show up to work. Some of Altinger's friends, unsettled by the email, went to his home to investigate and immediately noticed that he left his motorcycle uncovered outside, something he would never do if he were going on vacation. After breaking into the house, his friends didn't see the home of a man who was going on vacation. Instead, they saw dirty dishes and a passport. That's when they knew Altinger wasn't on vacation. But where was he? They turned to the cops for answers. Before Altinger went to visit Jen, he sent the directions to their meetup spot to his friends. This caution did him well, as those directions led cops right to Twitchell's garage and by extension to Twitchell. At the scene of the crime, Twitchell denied knowing anything about Altinger or his red Mazda. When police noticed blood in the garage, he explained that it was a prop from a movie he was filming. Following this, Twitchell went with officers to the police station where they questioned him, not yet treating him as a suspect. At first, Twitchell seemed inconspicuous and shocked. He was a braggart who liked to talk about his career as an amateur director, and the movie he was currently working on, House of Cards, ended up the topic of discussion. Police noted a similarity between its plot and real life. Namely, the film is about a serial killer who uses the internet to lure victims to the garage, just as Altinger was lured to Twitchell's garage before he went missing. Twitchell said he had noticed the similarity himself and that it gave him a chill. At this point, cops were still treating the investigation as a missing persons case rather than a murder, so Twitchell was free to go, with one detective even telling CBS that he thought Twitchell interviewed well. A few hours later, however, Twitchell's web of lies would begin to unravel. He had invited officers back out to his garage and this time mentioned a red Mazda he had recently bought and left at a friend's house, Altinger's red Mazda. The new car obviously raised red flags for some detectives. Twitchell explained that he had bought it for $40 Canadian from a man who no longer needed it. As he explained, the man recently got involved with a rich woman who was going to buy him a new car, hence the cheap sale. In his diary, he even mentioned stealing the signature from Altinger's house to fake a bill of sale for it. Although Twitchell was proud of his lie, detectives didn't buy it for a second, and so they began to look deeper into Twitchell's background. To start, they called Chris Hewitt down to the station for some questioning, as Chris was an actor who had been involved in House of Cards. Police asked him questions about filming the movie, and his responses didn't help Twitchell's case. He mentioned that the character he played was supposed to be killed with a katana and that Twitchell said he would provide a mannequin for filming said scene. However, when he showed up to the garage, he saw no mannequin, but he did see the sword and other weapons, and they were all real. Unnerved, Hewitt left, ending his involvement with the movie. When police asked how much of the blood in the garage was from their filming, Hewitt's answer was a concerning none. After that, the investigation really began to focus on Twitchell. A search of his computer revealed a deleted document the police recovered titled SK Confessions. Though Twitchell said that SK stood for Stephen King, who inspired him, and in all likelihood meant serial killer, as the document's fourth line reads, "This is the story of my progression into a serial killer." Essentially, the document is an autobiographical screenplay about Twitchell's first murder and attempt. It details his assaults on Giles, his murder of Altinger, and the preparation and aftermath of both events. It gives glimpses into his outlook on life and murder and details about his personal life, including his affair with his ex-girlfriend, his failing marriage, and his child, who was less than 1 year old at the time. Though names were changed and some things seem to be exaggerated or made up, the document is surprisingly similar to real life. These similarities include very specific details such as the gold-painted hockey mask that Twitchell wore during his crimes, the narrator being an amateur film director, and motorcycle gear being present at Altinger's home, among many others. The similarities between reality and SK Confessions led officers to treat it as a diary rather than a work of fiction, and if the document was a diary, that meant the man who got away was likely still out there. If so, he would be a boon for the investigation. However, before officers found that man, Twitchell would find himself in cuffs. A mountain of evidence was stacking up against him. Luminol tests on the garage confirmed the presence of blood, and the subsequent discovery of Altinger's blood in the back of Twitchell's car was all police needed to arrest him for murder. Before he was arrested, he had sent an email to Renee about the situation, confident that cops would find nothing on him. After he was arrested, the once talkative Twitchell had no words for detectives. By this point, even Renee had called the cops, so not talking was the best thing he could do. He was no doubt embarrassed and scared, his world unraveling as he faced the realization that he wasn't as untouchable as he thought. After police arrested Twitchell on Halloween 2008, they turned to the public, showing off the killer's hockey mask and asking his victim to come forward. When Gil saw it on TV, he told police everything that happened to him, and the details he gave confirmed that SK Confessions was indeed the truth. While Twitchell was behind bars awaiting trial, police looked everywhere for Altinger's body. SK Confessions mentioned that after he chopped the body up, Twitchell put the pieces in a bag and dumped them into a sewer, but it didn't say where. After months of fruitless searching, police gave up, unable to find it. Later, more than a year and a half after Altinger disappeared, Twitchell would finally tell police where to find his body. He gave them the map seen here, and it turns out that Altinger's body was dumped less than a block away from where police ended their search. At the location, police found pieces of human torso inside the storm drain. Why, after more than a year of silence, did Twitchell suddenly tell cops where to find Altinger's body? Was he feeling remorse for what he did? Not likely. You see, by 2010, Twitchell still hadn't gone to trial, but it was almost time. When his trial started in 2011, he argued that he didn't intend to kill Altinger. Instead, he claimed he merely wanted to scare Altinger and Gills in order to create a buzz for his new movie, an urban legend that would spread like wildfire. When Altinger found out he had been tricked, however, he attacked him, so Twitchell had to defend himself and ended up killing him. Telling police where Altinger's body was likely just done in an attempt to make him seem less guilty. Of course, no one fell for Twitchell's self-defense claim. If he killed Altinger in self-defense like he claimed, why did he cut up his body? Why did he break into his apartment and send out that email? In the end, the jury heard the evidence, including Gil's testimony and SK Confessions. Some pieces of the screenplay were left out for being too graphic and inflammatory, and the judge presiding over the case issued a publication ban on the case until the jury was sequestered. After just 5 hours of deliberation, the jury delivered a verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. For his crimes, Twitchell was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. Due to their already having secured the highest possible sentence for Twitchell, prosecutors opted not to try him for the attempted murder of Gilles Tetrault. Tetrault seems to have gotten over the embarrassment he once felt as he released a book about his experiences in 2015 titled The One Who Got Away: Escape from the Kill Room, and he's appeared in a number of Twitchell-themed episodes on shows including CBS's 48 Hours. It seems life is treating him well. The same can't be said for Twitchell's other victim, Johnny Altinger. Though he may be gone, his family at least got the justice they deserve, having been present at the trial when Twitchell was found guilty. In 2011, a memorial was given in Altinger's honor. In addition to a mother and brother, he left behind 2 children. As for Twitchell, he hasn't changed much. He's still obsessed with Dexter, and he even got to finish watching it behind bars. He was in a pen pal program at one point, but he was taken out after public backlash. Before and after the trial, he wrote dozens of letters to a journalist covering the case, and in these letters he explained a bit more about himself and his crimes. He maintains that he killed Altinger in self-defense and that the show Dexter had little to do with his crime. It would seem in addition to being arrogant, Twitchell is delusional. Add to that psychopathic, as in the letters Twitchell writes that there is no root cause for his actions. In his own words, it is what it is and I am what I am. Regardless of what drove Twitchell to murder, he's behind bars now and it's unlikely he'll ever be able to harm anyone again. He filed an appeal shortly after his conviction but dropped it less than a year later, showing that he knows his situation is hopeless. Had he been as clever as he likes to think he is, he may have ended up as one of Canada's most prolific serial killers, but instead he was caught and arrested just 3 weeks after his first murder, largely due to his own actions. The email to Altinger's friends and keeping his car, the messages to Renee, that damning screenplay, all are symptoms of an arrogance and lust for fame that caused Twitchell to become his own undoing. In a cold twist of fate, the acts he committed and letters he wrote serve as fuel for other creators to make their own books, shows, and movies, all of which he will gain nothing from. If you would like to read more about the case, sources are quoted below in the description, including the entire uncensored text of SK Confessions and the CBS episode mentioned above. SK Confessions is a very graphic and lewd document, so discretion is advised. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you can see all of my uploads as soon as possible. If you have a story or subject you'd like to see a video on, or if you'd like to collaborate in any way, email me or contact me at any of the socials below. I'm available for script writing, narrations, and editing. I post all types of scary content, real or fictional, and if you submit a story or topic, I can credit you however you like or leave you anonymous if you prefer. Thanks for watching, share the video, and be sure to follow me on all my socials below. Until next time, this is Mr. Mysteries.